Welcome, welcome, welcome to a new season of CAV HQ Live. I am your host, CAVBoss. So, it's 2022, right? Make sure I got my right years there. So, I've been playing hooky for a couple of weeks, trying to kind of wrap my head about where I wanted the show to go and how I wanted it to go. I do plan on getting someone else to join me on a more regular basis so that we can kind of have some conversations and talk about some things rather than depend on so much for questions and whatnot. And I'll let you know. Hopefully we can get some people to rotate through so that we get some new ideas and opinions. But what I decided that I really wanted to do going forward with the show is get back to the hobby side of things as well. Besides just talking about CAV and answering questions and so forth and so on, you know, I want to include you as I work in the hobby, as I get things ready for games, boards, play tests, whatever that we might do. And so here over the last week especially, I've been doing kind of a redesign on the studio again. Redid my work area. I know it looks a little the same here, but the nuts and bolts of it around me is much, much different. That should help a little bit with cameras looking a little better and things like that. Probably would still need to work on the lighting a little bit. I am not a camera expert. So I know there's some settings in my cameras I need to adjust and so forth and so on with white balances and all that things. But with that being said, hold on just a second here. Hold on. Make sure we got a couple of things. All right, hopefully that maybe it won't be so washed out now. We'll try that. You're real quiet on my end. All right, well, we're trying a new microphone system, so we will see if we can get you a little louder. All right. Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing, 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 1, 2, 3, testing, testing, testing. Are we a little louder? Is that a little better? Bueller? Bueller? Still quiet. I'm not sure why. Because I am showing that I am putting out pretty heavy sound. Okay, so let me, apps using your microphone. Let's see. Let's make sure Windows isn't doing something screwy. I've got you up about half again as usual. All right, well, let me make sure we haven't done something here. Have I not turned? Whoop, how's that? Is that any better? We're getting better. Well, it shouldn't matter if I turn my head because it's a different kind of mic. So. La 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 la. Maybe, hopefully that's a little better. Raise my mic up a little better. If I get it a little closer, I don't know. We're still playing with all the little settings. If I set it off to the side so it's not right under my chin. Maybe. Okay. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Let's see here. Still not happy with video part here. The wonders of getting everything set back up. I don't think we want that there. Let me double check one more thing under Windows that I was going to look at. Let's see, Bluetooth device sound. All right. That needs to play there. Okay. Whoa. Hello. I bet we blew everybody out on that one. Better? Oh, still pretty loud, I bet. White noise. All right. Is the white noise gone? Okay. Yes, my Windows settings were way off. The microphone in Windows was turned way down, so the board was fighting it. How is that? Does that sound good? Is that too loud, too quiet? Little did we know we would spend the whole hour testing sound equipment. We scared everybody off. They're like, oh, he's so freaking quiet or loud. We don't know. He's one or the other. Okay. Well, I'm going to go by the fact that the sound bar shows that I am putting out good sound. If I'm too loud, I can adjust a little bit more. Okay. Last thing I wanted to test. I bet that's somebody texting me telling me what my thing is screwed up. What do you want to bet? Oh. Nope, not yet. Good. Okay. So tell me if you hear anything else here. Did you hear applause? Turn that down a little bit more. Catching up. Good audio on that. So did you actually hear applause? Was there clapping? You're louder when you mess with it. Well, it must be because because I'm turning my head that way. All right, let me try it again. Let me try this. I don't know. Yeah, it was turned up higher on my. I've got a soundboard. I've had a soundboard from the beginning, and I got it, and we didn't really use it at the beginning, and so I'm trying to get that, trying to get it dialed in. So hopefully we will get there. But it has sounds on it, but I can't hear it from my side, so I wanted to see if, hey, we actually had sound. So we might play with those another day. Is it defaulting to a different audio in and coming off the laptop mic? Yes, well, when you hear the sound effects, those are coming directly from the board. But according to Windows, I am on the right microphone. Double check it just one more time. But all I can go by is the sound bars, and all the sound bars are showing let's see here. I don't know. We'll see. We'll keep going with it and go from there. If you tell me it's horrible again, I'll worry about it later. Okay, so getting to the hobby side of things. So from Wednesday nights, I'll be glad to answer questions. We'll talk about CAV as we go and everything. But I am going to be working on different projects. Okay, really? And we'll go back and forth. Last month, I started designing. And then the other side of that is I'm going to start doing some YouTube videos that will be pre-recorded, edited down so that we're all nice and neat and nifty and everything there. So with battle reports and stuff like that. So part of the projects that you're going to see me working on here on the deal is getting stuff ready for those videos. I've got 2 or 3 new boards in mind that I want to build. There's kind of an inside cavern thing that I want, a battle that I'd like to do for a scenario. Some kind of island jumping with lots of bridges and stuff like that. So lots of different projects upcoming that we're going to work on. So speaking of terrain, So this is a piece that Thunderhead Studios did. Chris Wales, he is an amazing, amazing guy when it comes to terrain. He has just got a natural eye for building this stuff on a computer and getting these things set up for 3D printing. A lot of it, we won't hold it against him, is very Battletech orientated. So he builds a lot of it to fit. Because you can buy these files or the pieces pre-done by, I forget what company that does them. But they're all set up to fit, like on the hexes from the map boards that they use. And this was, he just recently did a bunch of power units. And a lot of the other stuff that he does is kind of smaller in scale, and even scaling up it can look a little funny. With that being said, me and Chris have talked about doing some CAV orientated terrain. So hopefully, we've talked a little bit about it in the past here on the channel, but hopefully we will get some more stuff together, do that. But this was a piece that he did on the deal, and it's a fusion reactor. All right. Let me just turn this thing down because I'm not going to have it sit there and keep going. And so I'm working on 2 or 3 pieces that I want to put in the board. I'm kind of getting a starport put together with a space elevator. Also a water purification plant, things like that. So this one has a lot of different uses that it can come in, and I'll build a base and everything for it. And I've scaled this to the extent, and I got it as big as I could get it on the particular printer that I use. This is, I have a Prusa, an FDM printer, that is kind of my go-to one. I've got a couple of Creality ones, but it seems like I spend more time working on those than I do printing. So the Prusa is kind of a bulletproof one. If you decide that you want to get into 3D printing and you have it, let me tell you that the difference in cost is well worth paying. And in the long run, it's really not that far off. Example, I bought my first Creality printer, an Ender 5, and I want to say that I paid $400 for it. By the time, we got it hooked up, we had to build it. This part went bad, this part went bad. We had to put new stepper motors on it. We had to do this. There's a lot of add-ons that you can buy aftermarket to put on them to make them work better and stuff like that. So by the time I was done, I bet that I probably spent at least double. So another $400, so $800 to get the printer. Finally got it up, running, got a few prints off of it, but you're constantly trying to keep it calibrated. You're having to redo this and redo that and check this and check that. So the Prusa, and this comes over from the guy that does it. I don't know if he's in Czechoslovakia or I don't know, somewhere over there, Eastern Europe, I think. But anyway, you can buy the printer 2 ways. They sell it as a kit, and for $200 more, you can get it already assembled, and they've gone through it. I paid to have it assembled. I think I paid $999 for it. I think that it cost me $30 or $35 to get it, import fees or whatever, for FedEx to deliver it. Took it out of the box, plugged it in, did 2 or 3 steps with it, and started printing right off the bat. And it has printed nonstop ever since. I've only had to go back and recalibrate it once because I moved it. I took it from upstairs to downstairs. And literally, I mean, this thing, it's a bulletproof printer. And I after all my experiences with those, I probably will never buy nothing but at least a Prusa, or you get what you pay for. And in the long run, I think I probably paid as much for the other ones that are not working now, that are big anchors. This particular piece took about 34 hours to print. That's the other good thing, is generally I'm not scared to do a Prusa, take a big print and put it on the Prusa and expect it not to be done. When I put them on the Crealities, it is a crapshoot. We might get it and we might not get it. It may get halfway through and off it goes. So, matter of fact, as soon as this one came off, I've got another piece that he had on there that I'm using to make my starport out of, or my space elevator for a part. It's like 36, 37 hours. It's almost done. I thought it might be done in time for tonight. But it's almost finished. Like I said, I can't stress enough about doing that. Now, this particular piece, and if you're familiar with how FDM printers print, they basically use, of course it's more fancy than this, but it's basically weed eater wire. I mean, that's really what it is. That's every time you look at it, it's a little different material and a little different made, but that's what it looks like. As it prints, it goes around and does all the stuff that it's supposed to do, and it prints lines on top of lines on top of lines, and it compresses the layer just a little bit as it goes around and builds them up. When it's all done, even if you have it super fine and dandy, on the sides you can see a little bit of the styration pattern for the way that this thing prints. Now, if I was trying to do something really fine and small, there's people that use them for that. I don't. I would go to my resin printers and use those. But for terrain pieces and larger pieces, it's great. And after I get it done, this was actually printed in brown, the particular material. We've got a zillion colors. I just throw whatever's on there. I use automobile primer. It's filler. It's primer with filler. You can get it Walmart, O'Reilly's, or whatever, but that's the difference, primer with filler. I generally put 2 coats on here. It does a pretty good job of filling in the styration pattern. You can see here, I mean, it's got a pretty good coating. And then after those set, this particular one I sprayed with black primer because I'll go in and do a bunch of dry brushing and stuff on it. So it's all painted up and primered and ready to go. So it'll be a piece I'll be working on. I just wanted to show you just some of the neat stuff that Chris does. This really, like I said, this is a fusion deal. I think it really goes kind of with the CAV mythos as far as the breeders and everything like that. So I thought those were really cool. So that's a piece I'll be working on. As part of my board builds, I plan on, of course, I've built a modern sci-fi city that I've been working on. You've seen the MDF, one of the buildings I built. There's some other stuff that I'm working on. But, I want to set up 2 other kind of towns. One, for my desert board, I want to kind of have that desert, Tatooine kind of adobe type buildings and stuff like that to build a city from. A lot of low structures and stuff, houses and things like that. So that's something that I'm working on too. I'm looking at some different models. I may end up just modeling them myself. There's really not a lot to them. In my mind, it'll be something super easy to paint or whatever to get a texture. They make that texture paint. I think spraying those after they're done with that and give it kind of a rough adobe deal and then dry, paint them and everything like that. The other side of the coin, whether it's a pirate world or a new colony, not everything is so cut and dry with the deal. So I want to kind of build a shanty town, kind of a quick lots of tin metal, lots of crate, things like that. I found there's a gentleman on one of the boards that did a bunch of shantytown buildings. And I think he had them more set up for like a fallout after game or whatever. So now this is one that I printed on my, I was just kind of testing a file out and checking it. So this was actually printed on my resin printer. So it's because it's a little smaller and got a little more detail. He originally did all these for 6 millimeter. I upscaled it to about 1.6 times, which should put it around 10 millimeter scale. And that's what I printed this one at, but it's still a little small. The doors are not, one of our guys couldn't walk through the door. So I played with it a little this afternoon and upscaled on the computer at 2 times. And that looks a lot better. So I have some stuff already on the printer. When that's done, I'm actually going to try to print with it being, because now it'll be, here, this was 1.6, so it's going to come out to probably about here when it goes up to 2 times. So I'm going to run this one first on the FDM printer. I'm going to put it on a smaller layer level, the finest one. It'll take a little longer for them to print, but since it's not, fusion reactor size, I'll be interested to see how it works. If it doesn't work, I'll come back and do them on my resin printer. I'd just much rather do them on the FDM because I need a crap load of them, and resin ain't cheap on mine. Now, I have a Form 3. It's higher dollar, kind of more idiot proof. You can buy those any cubes or whatever, phobic printers or whatever. A lot of people get some good stuff out of them, but it's a lot of work. And again, you're back to working on a lot of things. So we've got those coming. Shantytown, we've got the desert town, we've got all kinds of stuff coming for the boards. Board builds, got a couple of new mats coming in. I've got one that's kind of a all water one that I'm going to use for my base, for my islands and bridges and stuff like that. And sand, somebody finally came up with a nice sand dune one, so I got it in. Now, for the first videos that I'm going to be working on, I'm going to have a Terran versus Rock Force. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I started working on these, and I built my Terran Force while I was on here. Now, these are 5,000 point forces, and I tended to stay a little smaller with them. And I'm sorry, I'm still working on the white balance. This thing automatic changes, so that's why it keeps getting light and darker. I've got to figure out how to change that. So this actually ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squads. There's 2 attack squads, a specialist squad, a flight squad, and a recon squad. Now, I used, your video is flipped. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, hold on just a minute. We can fix this. Let's see, we want to flip. Look at that. Crazy. Like you wanted to read it anyway. Can you read that? Whoa. Okay. Oh, now I messed it up. Refocus. I shouldn't have went up too high. Okay. So a lot of these, half of them are probably, let's see, how many total models are there? 5, 10, 13, 15, 20 models. So a little over half of these are new models that have not been released yet. So I've got the ones that we do have, I've got them here, I'll show them here in a minute. So we'll start on those. And then there's some on here like the goshawk, the ferret, which is a weasel and a weasel variations, a tanto. So those are all 3 new models. So we're going to get those started and go. Oh, and a Starhawk 7. So as we start doing releases and stuff, the Starhawk 7 is designed. The Weasel is a older model that we're going to update and do as a variant as well. So you'll be able to either do the weasel or the ferret out of the pack. As we work through this process, we'll have some new models and we'll get those out released to you guys just as quick as we can. Starhawk 7's already done and we're just waiting for masters. So once we've got those, you'll be good to go. So the models that I do have, though, for my Force, there's a Starhawk 5 that's in there. Yeah, possibly. We have 5 dingoes. So I always like dingoes when I do Terran. Dingoes are just so much fun. So, I'll go into that too. And then an Ashigaro and a couple of Amets, these are the new dual cast Amets that we're getting ready to release. So no metal. So those are cool. We'll get those out pretty quick here. So many things going on. So we're gonna paint on those. We'll get started here. We're halfway through that. It'll give us something to get started on. Now, as far as me painting, I will forewarn you, I am not a pro painter. I try to use some of their stuff as I can, but if you are watching this show or turning in to be a master at painting, this ain't it. I am a get them done, get them on the board. I think I do them a little better than just slapping them together, but they are certainly not any way or form competition quality. So keep that in mind. If you're not a great painter, then I'm probably the guy you want to watch because I probably paint like most people do. So from that side of it, at least I won't make you feel bad. So you've got that going for you if you compare your stuff to me. Now, the initial idea behind all this is a desert board that I've been working on that we've seen in the past. So that's what these are going to be, kind of a desert camo that I've got in mind. It's kind of if you're familiar with the Army, the chocolate chip, which is kind of a light tan with some dark brown and then some little white and black specks on them. That's kind of the look that I'm going to go for these. So hopefully we will get that. Typically, I primer them. If light colors, since brown, I wanted to use a white primer so that they're a little brighter. I base coat, I wash, I dry brush pretty aggressively with a middle color and then lightly come back with a light color and maybe do a little edging in cockpits and rockets and stuff. So that's a process that you're going to go. So for my base color, I am using Adon Prairie. It's kind of a little darker than a tan, but not so dark that we can't use some good deals. So let's paint what we can. Let me find a good brush to mess with. That brush has seen better days. That one maybe, like just a little bit bigger one. I've got to go through and organize my brushes someday. Oh, some of these have seen much better days. Oh, That's what I want right there. We'll get fancy. These are Reaper Pro Paint brushes, so love them. They're only $4 or $5 a piece, so they are good brushes if you want to take care of them, but they're not going to set you free. Also, I've had it for over a year. This is a wet palette. I keep meaning to get it out, and I am tonight. So if you're familiar with a wet palette, it's basically got a sponge in the bottom of it with some parchment on top of it that soaks a little bit of water and keeps your paint, acrylic paint, from totally drying out. So that's what we're going to use tonight to put our paint on. And we're going to start painting. So just going to be base coating tonight. But I am, like I said, if there's something you want me to talk about, I'm just going to get these on here. I don't want it real thick on here since we're going to wash over it anyway. So I want to keep it smooth without piling it on. This is kind of a in progress painting scheme. We'll figure it out together as we go. Generally, I'll airbrush this particular one on, but I didn't feel like setting it all up tonight. So it may be that you'll see me paint on this tonight, and then next week they'll all be base coated because I went down and got the airbrush. I kind of went through it a little bit, looked for, any little mold lines or anything like that, but I don't get overly aggressive trying to find every little one of them. A, because, like I said, I'm not trying to paint like a pro, and B, I'm about half blind, so. Now, this is the Warhawk, Starhawk combo. When I put him together, I kind of cut that chunk off the back of his foot that comes with the model, and so I could swing his leg out and get him a little more aggressive pose, and built some a little sand rocks up under there, so when I do the basing, I'll tie all that in. But that's what I ended up doing there. Well, I hope everybody had a good Christmas and New Year, New Year Eve or whatever. We did. We just kind of hung out, but kids came all over for Christmas dinner, and it was just me and the wife for Christmas Eve, so nice quiet. I broke out, I backed to Kickstarter. God, it's been 2 or 3 years ago. At the time, they were talking about, I don't know if you remember the movie District 9. That's the South African guy, Neil Blomkamp or whatever, that did it. But he's kind of buddies with Peter Jackson, and so Peter Jackson went down there in New Zealand, helped with the effects and stuff. So I think they were planning on doing another movie 2 or 3 years ago. And I would say, since we haven't seen it, It's probably I heard more about it. It's probably fallen through. But at the time when they were talking about it, they came out with a Kickstarter for a District 9 game. I guess they were wanting to kind of get people to start thinking about it again or whatnot, and whatever. So I backed the Kickstarter. It wasn't very expensive. I really liked the movie. Looked like it was going to have a lot of cool miniatures and stuff like that. So lo and behold, first to last month or whatever, after 2 or 3 years, and I hadn't even thought about it, the game showed up with all the stuff. So looks great. Lots of cool miniatures. Cool game board and everything like that. So I kind of had hoped to, while the kids were over on Christmas, try to play it then. So I broke it all out and kind of set it all up. Still trying to figure it out. They are not the best rule writers. And I haven't had anybody to really play against to kind of work out it. I've been kind of playing against myself. So hopefully I'll get it figured out. Possibly. Just a little bit of water in there. Oh. I noticed there was a question up on the Facebook today when I was talking about the new show and everything tonight about the rules update. It is done. We are going through a final edit, double checking some things. My plan, as always, is to get it out as soon as possible. I really, really think that we will have it done by the end of the month. So we've got that to look in for it. Now, basically this is, we're updating and making some changes based on, the stuff that we've been playing for the last 5 years. A lot of it's still the same. It's just kind of reworded and taken into account some things that's come up that may or may not people were taking advantage of things. But the way, if you haven't heard the way this is going to be done, we're going to put this out as kind of like a beta document. You'll be able to download the PDF for free, start playing with the new rules, update what you've got. And it'll give people a chance to kind of go over things and see if we screwed stuff up worse or made it better or didn't do exactly what it's supposed to do. So we're going to get it out there for everybody to kind of kick it around and see what happens. Then, and that'll go 2 or 3 months. As part of the campaign guide book, we are going to reprint the rules update in that particular book. As an update, it's just going to be these rules and just the base rules part of things, so we're not invalidating your rule book as big sections of it or whatever, as far as the history and background and everything. But I do not want to put all these in there until we have the rules update and had a chance to kind of kick the tires on it a little bit. So stay tuned. It is coming. It's done. It's just kind of going through an edit right now, and we'll go from there. Just keep working on our base code here. We've got about 15 minutes left tonight, so hopefully I was able to answer or get some information out there for you as to where we're at, where we're going. We do have new minis coming out in dual cast. We're trying to get all done and stuff with everything else going on. So we're getting there. We're gonna get caught up. I know it. This COVID popping its head up again is the company that we use to get our final masters done. COVID raised its head in their office, and they've pretty much been done for a month. So we're waiting on stuff from them, which includes the new big Starhawk model. So, but you got to do what you got to do. Hopefully it's not going to get into convention season. I'm not ready. We've got our first one here at the end of February. So I'm kind of crossing my fingers, hoping that this stuff has kind of moved back by enough at that point that people are not going to be canceling shows again this year. I'm ready to get out. I'm just tired of everything. Of course, I'm kind of a Chevy guy, GM guy. So I went to talk to him about trading my pickup in for a newer pickup. I've got a 3/4 ton, and I want to go up to a 1-ton diesel, which is what I should have bought to begin with, but I didn't. That's a whole nother story. So I looked on their website, and they had one that was coming in and was pretty much exactly what I wanted. So I went down there and said, hey, I want that truck. Oh, well, that truck's already sold. And I'm like, well, just show it on your website that it hadn't even been delivered. I know, but we just haven't got everything updated. All right. So, well, I want that truck. I want a truck like that. Well, you're looking at months. I'm like, I don't want to wait months. I want my truck now. Well, we've got this truck that's going to be here at the end of the month that a guy ordered, and he decided he didn't want it because he was tired of waiting. I can imagine that. So I said, well, let me look at it. So I looked at it, and it was pretty much a bare bones version of the truck, other than being a truck and having the motor in it that I wanted and being a 1-ton. That was about all it had in common with the one I wanted. And I don't go for all the bells and whistles. I don't need a whole bunch of that, but I want seats that move, that are automatic. Just little things like that. So I don't know. They don't know when they're going to get their act in gear. So I didn't go ahead and order one. I was like, yeah, whatever. Because I figure at this point, if they get there, by the time he's talking about, if they can get everything back on track, I think the market's going to overnight, because I know Chevy and them, they're building trucks like crazy. They're just not finishing them. They've got lots full of cars that they're waiting for chips and stuff. And I think the market's going to be, they're going to have, once they get it all going, there's going to be more cars than deal. That's like the tornado that hit, unfortunately, down in Tennessee, Kentucky, all that area down in there. I don't know if people saw that, but it hit the Corvette plant down there. And they had all these Corvettes parked in a parking lot out there. And they ended up totaling them out and crushing, I don't know, a couple hundred of them, I think. Which is just nuts. But I would have thought there would be something good out of them, but apparently not. Oh. I won't have to paint the gun barrels. I doubt those will be. Our camo color. I'm really, really happy with the way the Starhawk 5 turned out. You know, it pays homage to the original, but has a lot of updated features on it that I really like. Like I said, just kind of getting a little bit of a base coat going on here. Then I'll give it a good wash and then start dry brushing, and then it'll tie it all together. And that way you don't want to go so thick on here with some of these, or you get a bunch of color built up on it that you don't want. So I kind of keep it thin. Glazing, I think, is kind of what the official term. I watched a guy the other day, and it's something that I'd like to try. I didn't want to jump into it since I had all these that I wanted to paint. I didn't want to do it and then figure out I couldn't make it work. But he is that kind of using his version of zenithal painting, where he is base and primer them all in black. He is dry brushing pretty aggressively, a darker gray, and then a little less aggressively a middle gray, and then a light gray, and depending on, I guess, what it is, maybe some white, to really bring up your highs and mediums and lows and all that stuff. And then glazing over the top of them so that you don't lose all that deal. And it looked really cool. I watched the YouTube video on it. So I would like to try that on one at some point. That might be a project we can try one night. So, like I said, for purposes of the show, I'm gonna hand brush this one, but when I do the rest of them, I'm gonna airbrush them. So, next week we'll have these all base coated, and then we'll start with the washes and the stuff. I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of my process, and then if you don't use an airbrush, you can do it this way too. Yeah, no, this is a great brown. I really like it. It's just great for if you wanted to go orange or yellows, it would work. Or like I said, it works really well as a base coat brown, so that it's not so dark, so that when I wash it with a darker brown, it'll take some of the yellow out of it. but one of my favorite colors. Lots of uses for it. And you don't have to all assemble it either. You know, if you don't want to, I always just do it in one piece and work around it. But generally, since I airbrush, it's pretty easy to get into these little spots. But if you want to keep them separate, you can. It's no biggie. One of the reasons I like the white primer, it's so easier to find spots when you don't miss them. Of course, with black primer, if you do miss them, you don't care. Looks like shadow. Because it's just whatever your priorities are. I don't worry about like I said, when I do that dark wash, it's going to go over everything. So there's a little bit of white here or there. The wash will get it. All right, that's where I'm gonna call it for tonight. I pretty much got the base coat on there. There's a couple little spots I gotta touch up, but like I said, it's just a real, get it on there, coat it up. I don't want it too thick. So that's where we're at on that. All right, so there we are. Well, I hope everybody will enjoy what I plan on doing going forward with the shows. So, like I said, each week's going to be a kind of hobby night. So if you got something you want to work on while you're listening or whatever, then you're good to go. Taco time on a Wednesday. Oh. All righty. Got a brush good and clean. Appreciate everybody being here tonight. Hopefully we'll get our crowd back up again. All right. This is my home concoction airbrush thinner that I use that clean my brushes out too. I put the recipe up on the Facebook page one time, so if that's something you ever want, let me know, and you can either go search for it or I can put it back up again, as the case may be. All right, so we're going to call it good for the night. It's nighttime. Did you hear my crickets? Did my crickets come through? Did we get crickets? Sometimes I feel like crickets. Anyway. Well, everybody that was here tonight, thank you. As always, if you have any questions during the week or something, hit me up on Facebook, Messenger. I'll try to do my best to answer. Other than that, I'm not taco time, but I am out of here. So good night, folks.